Hey guys, how you doing? So I just want to introduce you guys to the person that we are interviewing today.
Hello.
This is Kevin Krieger. He is a professor of finance over at the University of West Florida. And Kevin, you went to the International Conference of Gaming and Risk-Taking, right?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. We would love to hear your experiences and how you felt about it.
This is a fantastic event. It's the triannual, I suppose. It's 2013, 2016. This is the third time I've been in 2019. It brings a lot of scholars and industry folks from around the world. It truly is an international event. We had a lot of representation from Europe and Asia, a lot of Canadians as well, and learned just a great deal about all sorts of areas, sorts of things close to my area, which is sports wagering, but then about other areas that you didn't even spend as much time thinking about until you get here. So to be around the atmosphere and to be around people is the best part.
That sounds really cool. So what kind of panels did they have? What kind of events did they have?
There's a lot of different choices with kind of conference setup where there's each session is an hour and a half-ish, and the program lays out 4 or 5 different choices on things you could go to. My panel was sports wagering heavy, but there's a lot of sessions on problem gambling. There's a lot of sessions on regulation challenges. There's a lot of sessions on marketing. There's a lot of sessions on history. And say I was at a historical one earlier today, and I also was at a problem gambling one, mostly out of curiosity, as well as my own, and getting to talk to some regulation folks in sports betting after the session.
Oh, awesome. And what are some topics that they would talk about, or what stands out the most to you?
I think of course, the event itself is for this purpose, but the thing that stands out most to me is how much these people care about wanting the industry to do well, but to provide a positive experience for the players. There's a lot of well-meaning folk here that want to see the industry do well. And I think that is, to me, the biggest takeaway. And it's kind of inspiring and gives you a good feeling to be around this place.
Fantastic. So, how many days is the conference?
This year's 3.
Okay.
I think they have been 4 in the past, but I think I might be wrong about that. But this one has been 3.
Okay, and is it from like 8 a.m. in the morning until like 5 p.m. at night?
It's funny. You can tell it's a slight bit of Vegas flair to this because most of these dues tend to start at 8, and this one doesn't start till 9. So there's just a little bit of self-awareness about that kind of thing.
They understand what you guys are going to be doing.
Correct. And there's, it was the first panels tend to be at 9. There's a lunch, either speaker or I think today I wasn't at today's luncheon, but then Cirque du Soleil had a little part in today's luncheon, and then there's afternoon panels as well, and there's some kind of a wrap-up dinner or function at the end of the day, which is typical. But 9 a.m. start is a little bit.
So does the International Conference of Gaming and Risk-Taking, does it have different levels? Like when people go and they buy their tickets, do they have like the general admission level, the gold ticket level?
It tends to be, as far as I know, it's kind of a one price for all sort of thing. It's not cheap, but on the other hand, most of us are here on expense accounts and sort of thing, and there are a lot of perks that come with it. The meals, the shows, the parties, the networking. It's a very all-inclusive price, and also they do a good job working with the resorts. This is the second time I've been at Caesars, but we've been working the last 3 years ago, and they've done a great job working with the hotels to get a genuinely good price.
Okay. Now, I know a couple of the people that I've been talking to beforehand, a lot of people have been really interested in the fact that Penn Jillette is here this year.
Right.
So, were you lucky enough to be
No, I got here after I got to wait and get my, I wasn't here until the end of day 1, so
okay.
I did not make it. Sorry.
So, tell me about like 1 or 2 of the panels that you went to.
Okay.
Just how long was it? What did they
Standard kind of stuff, about an hour and a half for a session. The one that I was presenting in also had a couple other gentlemen in horse racing, which I knew nothing about, and a little bit of sports betting history as well, which was interesting for me. I learned some things that I didn't know and would add some perspective in some of my writing going forward.
So what is one of those things, if you don't mind me asking?
I'd say the biggest takeaway from it was how early Nevada was to allow that sort of activity, that sort of wagering, and that a lot of the practices that we think of as kind of standard, whether the bets that are typically offered and things like that, had a genesis from, say, 50, 60, 70 years ago that I didn't know.
Okay. So I see that we have some comments.
Okay.
I'm blind, so I can't see this far.
Okay.
Let me see what you guys are saying here. Cool, we got some comments. Awesome. Hey Joe, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Yes, if you guys have any questions, any comments about the International Conference of Gaming and Risk Taking, please feel free to ask. We have someone who has the experience. And then, awesome. Hey Jay, how you doing? Good to see you.
Oh.
Volume is a little low. Okay, let's try.
Well, I can speak up too. I didn't want to overwhelm, but I also didn't want to. Yeah.
I'll try speaking up as well. I know that sometimes I have to yell because I don't talk very, loudly. Yeah. Awesome. So tell me, so they had a lot of when the fun stops kind of panels.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What kind of information did they focus on for helping people to, say, combat that or help with the problem?
This was a lot of public policy type of discussion. Again, not as much my area of expertise, just more of a layman that's learning about the topic by kind of being there, hearing some experts. A lot of talk about identifying at-risk individuals earlier, sorts of things. Typical, some things about correlations with other addictive behavior, just sort of better education, putting the word out, and maybe knowing a little bit more about susceptibility for problem gaming.
Okay, sounds good. So I know with problem gaming, especially problem gambling and everything. I don't know if they talked about this. Let me know if they did. But usually with problem gambling, when people are addicted to gambling or they're addicted to alcoholism, it's because they're trying to self-prescribe or self-medicate for an underlying problem. Usually it's depression or bipolar disorder or something along those lines. Did they talk about that at all?
Yes, there's some discussion about that, absolutely, that the correlations there, exactly that sort of thing, and potentially encouraging sufferers to seek out treatment for underlying issues more quickly would be part of the reason for studying this and having it unfold more. I'd say yes, absolutely. And on top of that, a lot of discussion on things like biochemistry that are definitely above my head, but like they're talking about dopamine type of that sort of thing, which I'm not a biologist, so I'm just sort of lazy-eyed about that. Yeah.
So what were some of the things that people would look for when identifying these problems? I know as a casino dealer, we would identify it when we would go home from work that night, and then the next night when we started the shift, they would be in the same spot, wearing the same clothes. They had not moved, gone up, nothing had changed.
Wow.
That's usually one indicator.
Did you see that somewhat happen more than once? You saw
yes.
that? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And sometimes I would have people there for multiple days. It wasn't like it was just one day for 24 hours and then they would go home. They would be there like 2, 3, 4 days in a row. They would gamble so much that they would get comped at the restaurant. So they would go eat at the restaurant, come back and continue playing.
Right.
And then if they wanted to go to sleep, they would either sleep at the table or there was a lounge right next to the gaming area and they would go sleep in the lounge. And their money would stay there and all of their stuff would stay there and we would have to watch it for them. And, they'd be gone for an hour at the very most.
Right.
But,
Most of what I gathered this year from this time was talk a little bit about correlations with other types of addictive personality things like alcoholism, as you say, narcotic abuse, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, just the idea that if we recognize that these people are at this greater risk, and we can either say have a more proactive policy to disallow their play. At what point is enough too much, and that kind of thing. But the bigger part of the focus was about trying to educate those people themselves of their problem, which is, it's always going to be hard because people have free will and they make choices, and we're not always in the best position to judge things like that. So it's hard.
Asking anyone to overcome an addiction is just incredible.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so difficult, and it takes so much time, and there's always going to be failures, because that's the way we're humans. We make failures. I mean, we make mistakes. We fail. That's part of it. Yeah. My
area of sports wagering that I study, I know from experience, say from when I was younger, there were people that could not afford to play sports the way that they did, and with the proliferation of the offshore sports books, especially in the Caribbean and things like that, people got in trouble. Life-altering type of trouble, kind of thing, and it's sad to see and scary to see, and so we'll never cure that sort of thing, but the more we know about it, the better.
Exactly, the more we can address it. So speaking of sports betting and everything, I know we already talked about this a little bit.
Okay.
Did you see anything on esports or anything with video game related betting?
No, I don't remember as well. I think there was some talk at a different panel that I was not around for. I'm sorry to let you down on that one.
You're good, but I mean there was.
Yes, I believe so, because I remember thinking that this was. I think it was actually during my. I think it might have actually been during my session.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because you had a session. You were a speaker. You gave a presentation. What did you talk about? Okay, so my piece with a co-author with my good friend and colleague Justin Davis was about the Supreme Court striking down PASPA last May of 2018. That's the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, and that allows states, if they want to legalize sports wagering the same way that it has been legal in Nevada for many, many years. What happened to companies that are in the gaming industry when that was allowed? Your first thought would be that this is a windfall for them, and when they now have this potential new revenue stream, they may, the stock price should go up in accordance with that. And the answer was yes, it did, but we document how much, sometimes like to the order of 5 or 7% increase in stock prices for stocks like Boyd's and for William Hill, which is foreignly traded but still easy to trade here. And then less so for some of the other bigger properties where sports gaming would be a smaller part of their mission, of their industry. But it still happened and happened quickly. The most interesting part of the piece, I know I'm getting very kind of esoteric with this, the most interesting part of our paper from this year about the Supreme Court and sports betting is that it was kind of foreseeable what was going to happen. Like months and months in advance, all the justices on the Supreme Court gave the indication that they were going to strike this law down, and yet the market didn't adjust to that. Like the stock prices didn't seem to care until it was really a final thing and the decision came out last May. That's not how it should happen. In traditional finance, we call this market efficiency, right? Prices are supposed to move immediately with news, and that didn't really happen here. So that was why this piece from like a finance professor world is something interesting, because that's not how it's supposed to work in theory, but it is how it worked in our paper. So is this something then that you are going to look into, say, next year to see if the trend continues or to see if anything changes?
Right. So there needs to be a long-term follow-up about this sort of thing. Exactly. Is, well, how do the expectations of what's going to happen for these companies jive with the actual revenue increases and once new books are open in Missouri or Iowa or whatever, Pennsylvania or whatever other states are sort of on the cusp of allowing some sports betting.
Okay.
So we will see. That's exactly one of our thoughts about what to track next.
And then there really aren't too many states right now who are getting into it, right? It's just really a handful of states that have really started the process.
New Jersey was really the one that initiated all this, filing the lawsuit that eventually worked its way through the federal courts. And so New Jersey was ready last May of 2018, basically to pounce and allow sports betting. And then, say, Mississippi was pretty quick to do it as well. They have a casino presence, but the rest of it has been slower. Pennsylvania, like you say, Iowa, Missouri, there's other states, but it takes some time. In part because these are state legislatures that only meet for a couple months a year, and they have a lot to get done during their sessions, and they have to make a decision on what to prioritize.
Okay.
But it's slow, you're right, we're only up to a handful still.
Well, hopefully they'll start getting, excited about it, and they'll start getting into it.
Yeah.
So we have a question on here, and someone, let's see, Fun and Games. Hey, Fun and Games. Fun and Games says, what is ICGRT?
International Conference for Gambling and Risk-Taking.
Yep.
Right, it's a mouthful, but it's International Conference for Gambling and Risk-Taking. This is the 17th edition of them. The folks at UNLV, it's an enormous amount of work to put together something like this. And every 3 years is good timing, because between the amount of work necessary to host an event, it gives everyone a chance to sort of go to the next level with their research.
And is this a once a year type of an event? Every three.
So 2013 was my first time, 2016, and now 2019. In 2022, I promise you, I'm already ready to be back in 2022. It's a fantastic event. I think that they used to, I could be wrong about this, but I'll go ahead and say it. I believe they used to rotate and go to Reno, Vegas, and at some point they just decided they would stick with what all the professors all over the world wanted to do. So,
Well, let's see what everyone is saying in the comments over here. Let's see. Ooh, some people are saying it's still quiet. We are trying to talk a little louder.
I'm getting less shy too.
I think it's just where we're located. It's a little bit more of an echo. So let's see. So Joe asked, do you think sports betting will grow to where it will be as common as slot machines or table games? Or do you think it will help the overall casino gambling industry?
I think it'll increase. I mean, it'll take time. I doubt we'll ever have the same, in my lifetime, we probably won't have the same culture behind sports betting that they do in, say, England, where there are parlors on every corner. And you can argue that with that comes more of the issues that we were talking about, the problem issues. But I do think the availability, I bet you 10 years from now, you will see a sports betting presence that is double, triple the volume that we are used to right now if you just aggregate it nationwide because of what's legal. The questions are going to be how much of this comes into the light legally in the United States versus how much of it stays in the black market offshore. How much of that comes online and then speaking of online, mobile is the future. Like you have to have people. There's still going to be people that when they're here on vacation like me that want to go to the counter and have a ticket and see a person just to say you did it, but that's not where the action is. The action's going to be on the big thing with sports betting many places now is the in-game action where you are constantly within the game itself allowed to make additional wagers and that sort of thing. The mobile part, the apps, that and sorting out the regulation of all that is going to be a big key to the growth.
Yeah. Do you think, I can definitely see the mobile apps taking off.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it going the same route as, say, mobile games where it's that kind of addiction.
Yes.
Do you see one state or one department saying having complete control over it, or do you see like the federal government creating
That's a great question. We tend to think that we'll stay largely state by state regulated kind of thing. There are some states that in their drafts of their legalization of their new sports betting that are being much more proactive and realistic about mobile betting. And then there's other states that don't want to do it at all. They want you to have a window, they want you to have a brick and mortar, and they want to do this, and those places will not see the same kind of, they're not going to see the same kind of impact that the ones that are 21st century ready that the mobile are.
Okay. So really the states need to get on their game if they want to see any revenue.
If you're going to do this, then do it. Like if you're going to allow it, then do the mobile, keep the commission, keep the rates reasonable so as to encourage the legal play and not keep people out. And say if you're going to do it, that could be a value choice. And if you want to say no, I get it. But if you're going to do it, do it. I would say.
Great advice.
That's my recommendation. No one asked me, except for Heather. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's see what else you guys are saying in the comments. Okay. Let's see. So, Fun and Games asks...
Ooh, this is good. I want to see the question.
Sorry if this question is a little too niche, but I was wondering how casinos protect their handheld games from card markers and why some casinos will not allow double down cards to be delivered face down.
I want to know that answer to the double down card down. Why some casinos are fine with it and others are not. For a shoe game, so,
Well, how they normally protect the handheld games, when the dealer is holding the deck, they have to protect the deck basically from anyone who is shuffle tracking. They could see where they mark the cards and where that card is in the hand. So in order to protect that, they have to hold the deck a certain way to cover all sides. When they're putting the cards up or down, say on a double down, if a player doubles down and they want the card, some casinos will allow the card to be face up. Some cards will say, no, you have to put it face down. The reason why is, of course, for card counters, it's so much easier to card count on a single or a double deck. So when you turn the card face up as a dealer and you expose that card, you're making it much easier for the players to count the cards, and therefore you're lowering the house edge, making it more advantageous.
There you are.
I could say that.
Yeah, that's good.
Making it more advantageous for the player. So that's why most casinos will tell you to put the card face down when you're delivering the card. When the casinos who don't care, they have you put it face up. Take a look and notice, like, how many handheld games do they have? Do they have a lot of handheld games? Probably not. They're probably only going to have one or two, and it's going to be in high limit. So if it's in high limit, they're a little more lax or a little more like easy going in that way, especially when the player's betting like $5,000 a hand.
That would do it.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, sure, we could totally do that.
Any way you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anything to keep you on the game. So it really, really just depends on the casino and the table as well. So.
Okay.
Let's see what else you guys are saying. Awesome, fantastic. Jay says, one of the differences between betting with a bookie and betting in legal sportsbook is that with a bookie, you do not have to put up money ahead of time. Do you think legalized sports betting will be able to overcome this?
That's a tough one. That's a great question, and I don't know. You're exactly right. The states are never going to allow you to play on credit. I just can't ever see that happening. I guess I could be wrong, but you're right. You would have to. It's going to be the balancing act of the ease of credit and making things square once you hit a win or a loss that tends to happen in a bookie type situation versus okay, but now you're doing it the legal way and you don't have to worry about the IRS or you might have to worry, but it won't be hauled away or anything like that. So I don't know. That's a good question. You're right. One of the advantages to doing it the sneaky underground way is the credit. That's exactly right.
And one thing I was remembering while you were talking, I just want to point out real quick, another way to deter people from marking the cards on a single or double deck, don't allow them to touch the cards with two hands.
Yeah.
So they're only allowed to touch it with one hand. If they touch it with two hands, they could have daub underneath their collar or something, and then they can be marking the card with their second hand.
Okay.
I was just thinking that.
How often did you see that happen? Did you have people marking cards?
In the 5 years that I dealt, probably about 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
So once a year type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often enough.
Well, I mean, I think that sort of thing is really interesting. It's like, let's say, did you know it? You knew right away? You think you saw it? You kind of saw it happening almost immediately? You think?
Well, see, here's the thing. Like, just because people go in the casino and like do that, that doesn't necessarily mean they're good at what they do. So you have like a lot of fumbling, a lot of, mistakes and everything, and it's like, what the hell do you think you're doing over there?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I guess, as a novice, as a layperson, I'm thinking of like, ooh, this perfect case scenario, but that's you.
MIT, right?
Right, but a lot of people are probably quite, you got to start somewhere, and they're not good at it when they start.
I had this one guy try to count cards on the continuous shuffle machine, and he couldn't figure out why it wasn't working.
That would be hard.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had another player who actually told me he was counting cards, but the dude was $2,000, under.
Yeah.
So it's like, go ahead, count cards.
Keep counting however you're counting.
Fun, right? You're doing a great job.
Right. Right. In one of your videos, I remember seeing you say something like checks play or something like that as sort of an alert for kind of a potential. Exactly. And I thought, well, that seems so benign. Like as a player, I wouldn't necessarily know that I'm potentially being eyed, and that's probably why you do it, because you're not necessarily wanting to.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when you're saying checks play as a dealer, checks play is basically another way of saying that the checks went from a small amount to a really high amount in one single, jump.
Which would be something that a counter would be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of those things you keep out for. So that's one of the ways you would notify the floor. Yeah.
But it's subtle.
It is. Yeah. Totally.
Right.
So let's see what else you guys are saying. So Jay says double down card face down takes longer, and some casinos are just looking to maximize hands per hour. That's absolutely correct.
I figured I've played at low enough limits where if you say, hey, for good luck, I want that double card down. It's like sometimes a lot of them, we ain't doing that. But then you should play more than $10 a hand. Right.
Well, the casinos are more willing to accommodate if you're playing at a higher.
It's just amazing what runs the world, this money thing, right?
Yes, yeah. I had a quick story.
Please, I love your stories.
I had this guy on my blackjack table one time, and he had, 16? He hit the card. He got a 10 for 26. He picked up the 10 card, crumpled it up, and ate it, and then asked for another card. And I call over my foreman, and I'm like, we need another 10 of hearts. He's like, what do you mean we need another 10 of hearts? I'm like, the player just ate it. He's like, stop bullshitting me. Can't you see that I'm busy? I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I swear to God, we were short one card. Call the cameras. If you don't, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So he calls the cameras. He's pissed.
Yeah.
You can tell he's pissed. And as he's sitting there talking to the camera, you see his face change from anger to one of complete and utter bewilderment. And he comes back and he's like, well, if he wants another card so badly, go ahead and give him another card. Okay, sure. So I hit him and I give him a 5 for 21, and we ended up paying him. Oh. And I asked the guy later, I'm like, what the heck happened? What was that about?
Why do you allow that?
Yes, exactly. And the foreman said, well, for $30,000 a day for 3 days, I think he could have one card for $90,000.
It's a fair price. Sure.
Right?
See, you really can do anything for
So it just depends. They have the tolerance. It's a spectrum.
I guess grabbing one more 10 of hearts from a loose deck would be faster than having to change everything that's in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So let's see what else you guys are saying. If you guys have any other questions. So Fun and Games says one other reason casinos don't allow you to put two hands on the cards is because, yes, exactly, it's harder to switch the cards in and out of the game. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Some magicians, yep, are really good at that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have one of those videos of the players switching the cards, and you can see that technique being used.
That one feels so egregious to me. I just feel like that. But you're right about the magicians. People can do things that are amazing.
Yep, and a lot of people feel that way, where they're like, I don't know how people could do this.
Yeah.
One of the things that dealers have to look out for is distractions. Are people, spilling drinks? Are they knocking stuff over? Are they asking really embarrassing or personal questions? Those are all distractions that if the dealer notices that, they have to realize, oh, this is a distraction, and then take a look at their game, watch their game, make sure there's no, pinching, pass posting, anything like that. So that is one of the ways that they use to try to get away with that, is by distracting the dealer.
Makes sense. So that's the thing about, learn a lot about, from finance we talk about, like, you learn about a lot about people when there's money involved, because it tends to get everything to the bottom denominator, bottom line really quick, including what people will do when they can make a buck.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm too shy. I gotta say, I get like horrified by the thought of, even I'd be embarrassed just to be around that game, just sitting in the next chair or whatnot. Too shy.
Well, it's definitely, you can't be shy when you're a casino dealer.
No,
way too many.
I admire that about you a lot. Like I say, you thick skin, get over everything, everything's new every day. But yeah, you shy. No.
It's like being an entertainer. Basically, you're entertaining the players.
This is true. Yeah.
So let's see what you guys are saying in the chats. Fantastic.
Okay.
So if you guys have any more questions, now's the time to ask.
Should I bet the Warriors tonight?
It's a great question.
Yeah, by the time some of you see this, if you watch it later, then you'll know what I should have done. I don't know.
Now, if only there was time travel.
I know. I'm going to go into player mode myself here for this afternoon. See?
Do like Back to the Future and go back and get
the sports book,
yes,
right?
Exactly,
the
sports almanac. Yeah.
That was the. It's good that he thought of it. Yep.
And then we have the owner of the plaza, right? He turned into the owner of the. They have that every single year. It's they make it into Biff's Tower.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and they do a whole Back to the Future thing, and you have DeLoreans in there and stuff.
Yeah. It's a gaudy thing that they had going in Biff's Casino.
It was so funny. Yeah. Okay, totally beat out.
Yeah, true. The worst of the Back to the Futures by far, but still damn entertaining, that part of it. So,
okay, let's see what else you guys are saying. Any other questions?
Anything else?
So, no other questions. So, I got a question for you.
Okay.
What are you looking forward to the next time you come to the International Conference again?
That's a fantastic thing. I am hoping that we know more about what's happened with the state regulations. There's nothing that'll be better than the real life experience of what happens with a few more years of politicians, policy, etc. coming down the pipeline, and we'll see what's new, and we'll know a lot more about the mobile. I think I'm most interested in my specific area to know about who uses mobile, how much, and in what ways. And I know that from like the marketing side and from the development side, there'll be some other people here in 3 years that will have some updates on that as well. So I'll try to play my little part in that area, and hopefully that will be a next big chapter in sports betting.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Well, you got 3 years to prepare.
I know. I have to find something new to add so I can come back.
Graphs, charts and graphs.
Yeah, I got two. I really, usually about a year out, I have this event in mind, and I really like to have something that we're proud of. Because seriously, it is a nice event, and I want to have something nice to bring with us and come. So I start thinking about that usually about a year out from the event.
Okay, cool. And then I have another question for you. Did you notice, or did you see any other panels on the actual cheating aspects of gaming or catching speakers?
No, I wish, Heather. I would love that. That's one I would go to for sure. No, if so, it slipped by me. I wish. You would be the ultimate expert in that. You should just do a full hour and a half by yourself talking about that, because you would be the perfect person to educate all the academics would learn a lot more from that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a fascinating topic for me. If they did that, I would totally go.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what do you think then? What other panels have you seen, or what else maybe have you not talked about?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I dropped the ball with you earlier. I know that there was a lot of talk about UK, especially problem gambling, in particular with sports, but that's a whole other story. But problem gambling, it tends to be a cultural thing, and it's a serious issue in Great Britain, and so I've learned a decent amount about that, and seeing what in particular governments weigh choices for like freedom versus public policy differently in different places, and it's a cultural thing in England that they will never regulate kind of the same way that we would. Help, yes. Try to provide information, yes, but it's just a cultural difference. So that's one thing that I had forgotten about, and I tend to learn that or relearn that every time I come to this event, is seeing an international perspective, and that's the letter I in the conference title, is international. And some conferences and events throw that word out there almost meaninglessly. Here it's the absolute big part of the event.
So do you think in Europe they see less people who maybe have a problem with gaming?
I think they see fewer people that have a problem, but perhaps some of those that do have a problem, it might be even more severe. Now, I'm talking about an area that's not my expertise there. That's totally based on the impression that I got from some of the topics. But it's sort of like drinking in France or something like that, where if you're exposed to it and you're around it all the time from a childhood sort of thing, it tends to be so normal that people overdo it less. But for the small segment that has a problem, it's obviously an exacerbator kind of thing. So, yes, kind of this thing.
Cool. Well, let's see if anyone else has any more questions in the comments. If you guys are saying anything else. Awesome. Tony says, great channel. Just curious, any interesting seminars or lectures you plan on attending? So are there any that you haven't attended yet?
We are about to go into our last session right now, and I need to go remind myself. I have a couple asterisks by things. I need to remind myself what was late this afternoon, because this will probably be my last one coming up here.
What was the panel seminar? What was the title of it that you remember the most of this exactly? What was the title of the seminar?
Let me try to think. Oh gosh, what the title would be? Something along the lines of like, how big is this problem in a culture full of problems, or something like that. It was a problem gaming type of, and of course it was a catchphrase or a catch thing, like to get attention. But it was a good one. That was where we learned more about, again, correlations with other behavioral issues and addictions, especially things like that. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else you guys are saying. We have Wolfgar asked, what speaker impressed you the most at the conference and why?
That's a really good one. I saw Jennifer Roberts. I think, but that was last time though.
She rocks. I love her.
I think she was at the same time as I was going to be this time. I would say that first my colleague and friend Justin did an amazing job with our presentation stuff as well. I would say besides that, I had a very good experience with a gentleman from Harvard about, I keep referring back to it, but about the correlations with other addictive behaviors sort of thing. And I would have to give Heather the name or something like that, because that was a day ago.
But it left an impression.
Oh yeah, and I'd say I'm susceptible as anyone. Harvard, you see Harvard on there, you know you're excited to be at an event like that. And he did an amazing job.
So let's see what else we got. Jay asks, how did the Golden Nugget in New Jersey allow betting on college basketball in New Jersey without knowing it was illegal by state law, and who was overseeing stuff like this?
It should be the equivalent of the gaming. I don't know. I don't. That's Jay. I don't know. I wish that should not happen. It's outside my comfort zone, and I wasn't familiar if there was a loophole that they thought they were doing, or if that was a brash. I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. And then fun and games. Is problem gambling considered to be more of a character flaw or a mental illness?
What do you think?
So I did a little research on this for the book that I'm writing, and a lot of what it is people use gambling addiction and alcohol addiction to self-medicate themselves. So if they're going through mental illness such as depression or as bipolar disorder, they use alcohol or gambling as a way to self-medicate themselves to make themselves feel better. So a lot of that is what it is. It's an underlying problem or underlying illness, and that's the cause of it. It's not a character flaw. Anyone who is going through alcohol addiction or gambling addiction, that's not something they can just change. It's not something that they can identify, oh, this is a problem, and then they can change it the next day. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of training with, your mind and everything. And usually, like I said, the people who are going through it, it's just an underlying factor of a mental disorder.
Right.
So it's a very difficult and complicated situation. And I don't think saying that someone has like a character flaw is a good way of classifying.
We definitely know, you know a lot more than I do about the topic, but we definitely have a different perspective about addiction as mental illness than we did, even 10 years ago, but especially compared to 40 or something like that. So,
and anyone who is going through that, they don't deserve our judgment. They deserve our help. They deserve our understanding. They deserve our sympathy, and they deserve our help. They don't deserve our judgment and vilifying.
Practically speaking, I would think you would be able to do more good with that kind of approach, as well. So, but I get it. The human nature is to judge something like that, and that applies to me too. But I rethink differently about that than I used to, and those kind of things.
It's a human thing. It's totally normal. I judge, you judge, everyone judges. It's just part of the way life is. It's just knowing it and seeing it and accepting it, and then trying to change that so you could be better. Some people don't do that, whereas other people, if they would try really hard to, change that about them. It's just one of those things where it's a human.
Yes. Right.
Okay, let's see what else you guys are saying. Let's see.
Oh, good. They answered the thing about the New Jersey teams being
good. So Captain Jack said, Jay, it's because the people setting the lines are in Europe and set the lines for all SB Tech books, Golden Nugget in New Jersey. They forgot to omit the New Jersey CBD.
Yeah. See, I don't know. Is betting on, this is embarrassing that I wouldn't know this, folks, but I don't. I always thought that you couldn't wager on Nevada teams, or UNLV at least, that books wouldn't book those games here, but now I feel like they do nowadays. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know.
Don't get me started with this. Okay, so Las Vegas local, I was born and raised here, so as I was, being raised in Las Vegas, I was told all of my life that we don't have a big sports team because we don't want to have a big sports team in the area where you're betting on.
Right.
It's, what do you call it?
You get the idea, though. It's just inviting. It's inviting trouble, right?
It's inviting trouble.
Yeah.
So in the late '90s, early 2000s, they started changing that, and they changed it to universities and colleges. It's okay. It's a university. It's a college. It's not a big deal. We could bet on it. It's minor betting.
Okay.
And then that's when they started bringing in. Oh well, if we can do that, let's do Raiders. Let's do a hockey team.
Yeah, I noticed that doesn't seem to be as big of an issue as it used to be. Yeah.
And it used to be a huge issue too. It used to be a really, really
Now
big
you got
issue.
the Knights and the Raiders coming.
Exactly. So it's one of those things, and yeah, watching the progression and the evolution of it is just something. Anyway, so last question.
Okay.
Where can people go if they're interested in more information on the International Conference of Gaming and Risk Taking? Where can they go?
It's going to be